so many bad books to read.
Hello and welcome in, everybody. It is I, Nurse Huckleberry, coming to you with yet another Bad Reads Book Club. How does this work? Well, the chat on Twitch picks out books. Well, I pick the books. Chat then picks from the books that I've picked, and then they vote. And one book from the books that I've previously selected to be in the bad book voting pool gets chosen, and then I read that book, and then I tell you about it. So I judge the books by the cover alone, and like the back and whatnot. I don't read them, and sometimes they're terrible, sometimes they're just boring, sometimes they're good. You never know. This is called The Misenchanted Sword by Lawrence Watt Evans. It was written in 1985, baby. And I realized later that this is actually a signed copy. It's signed by the author to Jeff. It says, "For Jeff, with all the best." There we have it. There we have it. That's the cover. Wow. Look, it's Judah very on top of it. The cockeyed spell. The old wizard wasn't exactly happy with Valder, who led the enemy to his hut. Now hut and magical supplies were destroyed, but he'd promised a young scout a magic sword to get him safely back to his own lines. And a much enchanted sword Valder would get. The resulting sword gave perfect protection. Sometimes it could kill a man or even a half-demon. In fact, once drawn, it had to kill before it could be put down to sheaths. Army wizards told Valder that the sword would keep him alive until he'd drawn it 100 times. And then it would kill him. It wouldn't prevent him from being wounded, maimed, or cut to pieces, but it wouldn't let him die. If his job as chief assassin for the army didn't make him use up the spell, he'd be practically immortal. Not bad, it seemed, but there had to be a catch somewhere. And there was. And it was a Lulu. I don't ever find out what a Lulu is, actually, in this book. All right, so this book essentially follows the entire life story of our guy Valder here, the guy in the kilt. That guy. Oh, there he is. Oh, look at him, Valder. Very nice.
Careful, Chad. He has a sword.
He is hot. All right. So Valder's like a 23-ish-year-old scout for the Asthartic army. Basically, there's this war that's been going on for like hundreds of years, right? Between the Asthartic army of the south and the Northern Empire of the north. In this land, there are wizards and witches and theurgists, which are people who pray to the gods for things. And then there's also demons and sorcerers. The sorcerers are in the north, for the most part, and the wizards are in the south for the most part, right? So we're considering the south to be the good guys. It's where our soldiers from, so the good guys are in the south. So basically, he gets separated from his particular troop, and he is running from the enemy. He's on this like marshy coastline, running away from the enemy, and just trying to get away. Now they've got this demon called a Shatra, which is a half demon. They got a half demon called a Shatra that's got all these like magic powers and stuff, that has hyper senses and can see him. And then they've got a sorcerer, and they got all sorts of stuff, and for whatever reason they're chasing this one dude, and he's running away, and eventually he stumbles upon an old hermit. And he's like, "Hey, hermit." Dude, pick the pictures today. What? Okay. He stumbles upon the hermit in like kind of a ramshackle little shack house thing, and he's like, "Hey man, can I like stay with you? Cause like, sorry, I'm kind of like hiding from the enemy right now, and like, I'm so hanging out." And the hermit's like, "Sure, you want any food?" And he's like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, you got a bloodstone on you." So he's got this special rock that's enchanted that makes it so he doesn't need food or drink. But if he drinks anything or eats anything, it's gone. And then he's super hungry and he's got to figure that out. Basically, the army's kind of running low on supplies. So they just start giving soldiers these bloodstones. And they're like, yeah, just whatever, you won't have to eat. And it's like not good for you though. It's like, it's, you know, it cheats the system and it really doesn't work out. Anywho, so he comes across the old hermit and then of course accidentally leads the enemy to them. And he had asked the hermit for some help in like getting back. And the hermit was like, well, I can't really help you that much, but I guess I could enchant your sword or something. I've got all these magic supplies here because he had a house with like tons of magic stuff in it, right? He's like, I could enchant your sword. That's about the best I could do for you. And Baldur was like, all right, cool. I'm down with the enchanted sword. Guess who shows up? The enemy. And they just burn the entire house down. And they're like shooting flame balls and just blowing it up. And the hermit's like, whoa, what the fuck? And Baldur's like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you the enemy's been on to me. I'm sorry about that. And he's like, okay, we'll get down. And then the hermit's like doing wizard stuff. And he puts a spell on them that makes them both look dead. And then he's like, pretend to be dead. And so they both lay down and they're pretending to be dead. And they've got like gashes and they're like, they look super gross and dead. And the enemy sees them and they're like, yeah, dead. Cool, so they leave. Well, turns out they completely annihilate. It is literally just a crater of dust is all that's left of this hermit's house. And he's pissed. He is so mad, right? He is absolutely livid. And he's like, look, you fucking jerk. It took me 20 years to gather those supplies, and now I have to build my house again. Are you kidding me? And Baldur's like, sorry about that. I'll be on my way. And he was like, what? He was like, are you still gonna enchant my sword though? And he's like, fine, I'll enchant your fucking sword. It's too bad I don't have any of my supplies anymore. I guess I'll see what I can do without it. So he gets to work and he's like, look, you go and get water and you catch some crabs or something and build a fire because I've got work to do and you ruined my stuff. Anyway, so it takes like a day and a half. The hermit puts literally every spell that he can possibly manage with no supplies on this sword. And he's pissed, right? And he tells him, hey, I put a spell of true ownership on your sword. Take this sword and leave. He was like, but don't draw it until you're far away from here. You won't need to use it, but get out of my sight. I don't ever want to see you again. Get going. Gone. Goodbye. And Founder's like, but it's like nighttime. And he's like, cool, whatever. Leave in the morning. I don't care. So he sleeps. He wakes up. Hermit gone. And he's like, okay. So he starts hiking away. And he's trying to get back to his, like, where his troops would be. And he's hiking through the forest and through the marsh. And what's he stumble upon? Well, nothing for quite a while. And he's like getting real hungry because some of the water got in his mouth during the whole like blowing up the shed thing. And so he's hungry and he needs some food. And so he's starting to look for some small game to catch. And he decides to draw the sword to see what happens. Well, turns out he can't put the sword away. The sword has some magic to it. It won't go back in the sheath. It also won't leave his hand. Technically, it won't leave his body. He can stick it to his arm and it just stays there. And he can stick it to his forehead. He tries sticking it to his feet. He can stick it to his leg or whatever. The sword, it was fine with, it's out of the sheath. It won't go back in. So for 11 days, he walks around with the sword just either in his hand or stuck to his butt or something because he literally cannot drop it. The true ownership on it will not allow him to drop it, and he can't put it back in the sheath, and he has no idea what's going on, right? He's just a scout. Eventually, he stumbles across an enemy. Oh, also, the one other very important thing is that the sword's name is Wirikador, which means Slayer of Warriors, or so he's told. Wirikador is the sword.
How do you spell
Wirikador. Wirikador. Yes, that is the sword's name, and it is the Slayer of Warriors. Anyways, eventually he does stumble across some enemies, and they start to come after him to attack him. And what happens? The sword moves on its own accord, and it is parrying, and it is thrusting, and then it just cuts the guy's head off. Yeah. Now there's 2 enemies. And so after the first enemy, he cuts his head off. The sword loses all its power. The sword's just like, okay, whatever. Sure, whatever. And like, mind you, he's tested it a bunch. He's like whacked it on things. This sword is like impermeable. You can't hurt the sword. It's got a sharpening spell on it. It's got all sorts of stuff on it. Sword cannot be hurt. So it cuts off this guy's head, and then suddenly it can be put back in the sheath. But there's another guy there, and he's like, yeah, what, you want to run? Or do you want to face this? Even though he's bluffing because the sword's not doing anything now. He's like, oh, yeah, run. So the guy runs off. He's able to finally sheath it, which he's very excited about because it's been like 13 days or whatever. And then he's running away from them. Guess who finds him? He takes a nap in a tree, right? Wakes up, dragon underneath him, going to eat him. And he's like, all right, sword time. Pulls out the sword. Sword gives 0 fucks about the dragon. Sword does not want to fight a dragon. He almost gets killed by a dragon, but instead he's running through the forest, and ends up running into an enemy camp, followed by a dragon. Which the dragon starts fucking things up, right? And he's just like, oh shit. So then he's got another party hunting him, chasing him around. He's continuing to run. It's been days at this point. He's running. He's got the sword out. He doesn't know why. He can't put it back again. And so he's like, okay, do I have to kill a warrior for it to go back in the sheath? I don't know. Eventually, he gets out into the middle of a field, and he's being tracked by a half-demon thing called a Shatra, and they're super hard to kill, and there's this, and then he ends up fighting the Shatra, and the sword's like, I don't know if I want to kill this thing. Should I kill it? It's half human, half man. It does kill the Shatra. He's the only man to have ever killed one, right? And then who appears? A party, like a search party from his own side, from the Asthartic army. He doesn't actually know them, but he's like in the same uniform. So they're like, all right, we're asking you a bunch of questions. We're gonna make sure you are who you say you are. And they take him back to their camp, and they're like, we got wizards here. They're gonna look at this sword, because what we saw was crazy. Nobody's ever killed one of those demon things. So I'm gonna look at that sword. And he's like, please look at the sword. So they're like going through, and they're doing all these tests on the sword. And there's this handy trick with the spell of true ownership on the sword, and that it always comes back to him. So somebody will show up and be like, hey, Valder, is this your sword? And he's like, yeah, what's up? Oh, yeah, thanks. And then the wizards are like, bring it back! Bring the sword back! And so it turns out one of the things with the true ownership is if he's too far away from it, literally it could trigger like a tidal wave or a major earthquake or a landslide to bring him his sword back, right? Okay, so basically they do a bunch of tests on the sword, and then the wizards are like, all right, this is what's going on. We're pretty sure that they fucked up the true ownership spell, so your life is intrinsically linked to the sword. Basically, the sword is indestructible, and so are you, but you can be maimed. You're immortal. As long as the sword lives, you live. So that's pretty cool. However, you could be like cut to a bunch of pieces. It doesn't seem to prevent you from being harmed. So you probably don't want that because you'll just not die, but you're maybe not living, you know? And they're like, also, it seems as though this like when you draw it, it seems to like need to kill someone. They told you that Wirikador means warrior slayer, but in reality, it actually means more like manslayer. So it just will kill anyone as long as they're an adult male. so kind of indiscriminate killing. But it will, and it just does the one, and then you can put it away, but it won't, you know, so that's always fun. But they're like not 100% sure and everything. They're like, also. So it's like kind of cursed. You got like 100-ish sword pulls, and then after it runs out of juice, you are destined to be killed by the sword. And then the next sword owner gets another 100 sword pulls, and they'll essentially live immortal until, you know, the sword kills them, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So, try not to get hurt. But, technically you can't die. Anyways, they decide his talents are being wasted, because now he's this guy with a magic sword. So why don't we use him as an assassin? So they switch him over to being an assassin. Now, being an assassin pays a lot more, but Bowser, not particularly interested in killing people. He actually really doesn't like that part. He was a scout. He just did the scouting stuff. He just looked out and was like, ooh, look, the enemies are way over there. You send the guys to go kill him, and I'm just gonna keep looking at stuff. So he does not want to be an assassin. Also at this point, he's already got like maybe 5 or 6 kills on the sword. And so he's like, okay, I have 100. How long is that gonna take? I really don't want to do this. They make him an assassin. He starts getting sent on assassin-y projects. Eventually, it gets heard up the ladder that there's a guy with a magic sword that's an assassin, and it's working out pretty good, even though he hates it. And so he keeps getting transferred departments because somebody higher up is like, no, I want that guy. Give me him. I want him. And so he's like killing all these people, doing all these assassinations, and finally he ends up being transferred to General Gore. Right? General Gore. And General Gore is like, all right, you're gonna be my assassin. You're gonna live in this fortress. There's women, there's drinks, there's beer, there's whatever. You're gonna have a pretty decent life in the fortress, but you're also gonna have to assassinate people. I'm just saying. And so he goes to the fortress and he's like, okay, sure, whatever. But guess who's there? His friend, Tandalin, that's the one. Tandalin's there. And so he's all excited because he gets to hang out with Tandalin. Now, he had previously told Tandalin about his sword because they have a fun little trick that they can do with the wizards where you get visited in your dreams by a friend. A friend can visit you in a sponsored dream. And then you get to chat with him in your dream until you wake up. Pretty cool. So he's hanging out with Tandalin. And Tandalin's like found a hot chick.
Oh.
He's all excited about. Valder's kind of like got the sword issue. He really hates it. Not into that. They continue with the assassinating. He gets like 80 kills on the sword in probably like 3 months. He's like, I've used 4/5 of this immortality blade. Oh, fuck. And they don't know the exact number at a certain point because like things happen. So he's getting really nervous, right? He's like, oh fuck, I've got this crazy blade and like all this thing. Well, guess what happens? The Northern Empire starts playing fucking dirty in the war. Why?
Oh.
They start using not Shatra, which are half human, half demons. They start using full demons in a Hail Mary attempt because things weren't going well for them. And the gods are like, whoa, inappropriate. You know that we're not supposed to be this involved in human affairs. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, demons? Can you not? So they go and the gods are just basically like, fuck them and just obliterate the Northern Empire. Literally brimstone, dust. They just blow it up, right?
Ooh.
Which is crazy. So General Gore makes an announcement to everyone. And now, mind you, the fortress that's there, this like army camp, is huge. It's massive. It's basically its own city. It's quite large. So he makes an announcement to everybody there. He's like, hey, just want you all to know, war over. Very exciting. Big claps for that. This is great. We're happy the war's over. Just some unfortunate news. Maybe it's fortunate. Who knows? So here's the thing, right? You know how we've been fighting for old Estar? You know? The Estar, our hometown. Everybody comes from. And the war has been going for like a couple hundred years now. Well, I hate to tell you, we didn't want to alarm the people, so we just kept it a secret. But the Esthar of old has actually fallen. Basically, the government kind of imploded on itself. You may be familiar with this. The government kind of imploded on itself, and now it's turned into, instead of one government, a bunch of city-states that are all bickering for who's in charge. So, here's the thing. We don't like that, and obviously, there's so many people, the population has grown so large of all of the camps because it's been 200 years that we've been at war. There's no room for us there. But here's the thing, we got all this land, so if you are a soldier, we'll just give you money, and then you can decide if you want to farm or if you want to do whatever, but basically you're all free agents now. So go ahead and figure out if you want to stay, you could stay. If you want to go, you can go, but basically everybody grab some land and start making merry or whatever. The war's over. So everybody kind of freaks out, right? Everybody's like, whoa, dang. And Valder, he hates being an assassin, right? And he's very concerned that he's very concerned that they are gonna make him stay. So he goes immediately and was like, hey, can I please leave? I don't wanna be an assassin. You know what? I wanna be a wine merchant. I want to sell wine. Can I go and sell wine, please? Because I don't want to, I really don't want to kill anybody. And I'm afraid that if I stay here, you're going to make me kill more people. And I don't want to. So he leaves. They let him leave. He leaves. And he goes down to a different city that is farther south, as Esthar of the Sands. And he's heard good things about it. And so he's like, okay, I'll go down to that other camp. Turns out it's a huge city. And a lot of people had the same idea. So you've got thousands and thousands of people rolling up to Esthar of the Sands with nowhere to go. All of the inns are charging insane prices for food and drink and beds. No one knows what to do. And now it turns out Valder's got to rough it, man. He's got to rough it. He's got a big old coin pouch full of money, and he's got his fucking sword, and he's got to rough it. So he's looking around, and he keeps walking and walking and walking, and then he comes to a bridge, and he's like, man, I wish there was an inn. I just wish there was an inn. This sucks. Somebody should really build an inn here. Wait a minute. I could build an inn here. So he builds an inn. He goes back to the city, and he gets a bunch of the drunks and stuff. And he's like, hey, I'll give you money. Come build an inn with me. And so he puts together a big inn. And who else does he have in his inn? Well, he invites Tandalin. He invites Tandalin to come and work at the inn. And he's really doing well for himself. And he likes being an innkeeper. He's hearing all these stories from people. He's doing good. He's got the sword up on the wall. And people, he's like, oh, he's an old soldier. So it's cool that he's got his sword on the wall.
Oh, and he's old now?
No, he's not old yet. Anyways, so he's got his sword on the wall and all this stuff. And he's doing great. And so a while goes by and business is good. He's making money, man. He's having a nice time being an innkeeper. He's expanding all the things. One day, a couple of thieves show up and they try to steal the sword. And he's like, hey, don't do that. And they're like, what are you going to do? what are you going to do? You're all pudgy. The war was years ago. And he's like, don't do that. You can't even hold the sword. And they're like trying and they can't hold the sword. That's the other fun thing. It's like slippery to everybody else. So they can't hold the sword. And he's like, you don't want this. He ends up drawing the sword, kills both of them. Oh, did we get a raid?
We did get a raid.
Who raided?
Edie.
Edie! Hey, welcome in, raiders. Hi, it's me, Nurse Huckleberry. I'm right in the middle of book club.
Well, hopefully near the end.
I am near the end. I be near the end if you. I am near the end. Hi, raiders. Welcome in. It's book club. We're join in.
Bad books, bad books. I've got so many bad books to read.
Okay, so just to catch everybody up, you've got a soldier with a magic sword that's kind of cursed. Basically, it makes him immortal, but he can still be chopped to pieces, so that's not fun. And now he has left the war, and he is owning an inn. And the sword is on the wall. But some thieves come in, and then he has to use the sword, and the sword kills the dudes. But he gets really badly injured, and he's not having a good time. He eventually heals from that injury because he's immortal, so he can't die. But things aren't really the same. And then he cuts a thief's head off with the sword before, and he puts that on a pike out front. And then for a while, instead of the inn by the bridge, it's called Thief Skull Inn. Fast forward like 30 years. Also, this book is set in the year 5000. You don't find that out until, I don't know, like probably 200 pages in or longer. They finally say it's in the year 5000. So, he's old now. He's in his mid-60s, which is old for that era. And he's like kind of starting to go blind and is like a little cripply and having a hard time getting around. And he decides at this point, oh no, I really got to figure out this thing with the whole sword situation. So he goes to the city to see if he can find a wizard. Now, post-war, during the war, wizards were plentiful. They were doing all sorts of stuff. After the war, the wizards were like, you can't have our magic. Very expensive now. Also, we got our own Wizards Guild thing, and we're just not gonna hang out with everybody. So he goes to the city to see if he can find a wizard to take the curse off of the sword. And no, they won't. No one will touch it. They're basically like, look, if you could end up killing you got 18 people to kill, you could try killing 18 people, and then you can't commit suicide with the sword. Somebody else would have to kill you with it, but I guess maybe we could figure that out. But there's kind of a workaround to these things. Maybe you could figure it out. Maybe you figure out a workaround. And so he goes and he asks a fortune teller and is like, hey, can you figure out if there's a wizard out there who has the answer to this? And she's like, yeah. So there is one guy. It's this crazy hermit that lives in the north. He is the only wizard in the world that could take the spell off, but it's telling me he won't. And he's like, okay, cool, great. So then he goes and is roaming around the city, and he's decided at this point to be a vigilante and start killing people because he needs to get his numbers up right on the sword business. So he starts killing people, but only criminals because he's still a good person. But he's having a hard time finding criminals until this beautiful young lady gets attacked by some muggers, and he goes and he kills the mugger, and then she's like, oh, thank you so much. I'm a wizard, Iridith, and I am super hot. My old apprentice used to live around here. Come on and come with me, and we'll find you a place for sleep. And then he explains what's going on with the sword, and she's like, oh, no way. Well, let me see what I can do, because you saved my life, so I should do something for you. And then she's like, oh, well, I'm a wizard, and so I've granted myself both immortality and permanent youthfulness. It's a thing that we can do, it's just not we just don't tell people about it. And she's like, but since you've already got the immortality, Like, that's the hard part. I can talk to the Wizards Guild and see if I can just get you the like permanent youthfulness, and then you don't like continue being decrepit and dying. And he's like, okay, cool, I'm like super down with that. And she's like, also, like, you've just been carrying this sword the whole time? That's so inconvenient. Here's a bottomless bag that you can put it in, and then it's just in a little pouch on your hip. I don't know why they didn't give you one of those before. And so she takes all this time, and then she makes him permanently youthful, so he's back to his 23-year-old self. And so now you've got both of them are young and hot, and he basically writes back to his inn, and is like, hey, I've decided to stay in the city, but my young hot nephew and his wife are gonna come back and run the inn. Sorry about that. And then they just run the inn forever. And eventually, the old hermit ends up in there and is like, I recognize you. And he's like, I recognize you. And he's like, oh yeah, sorry about the enchantment on the sword, man. Yeah, I messed that up. I was supposed to use a gold ring, and I used a brass ring, and it kind of messed up the spell of true ownership. Sorry about that. And that's the end of the book. This was a fantastic read. It was really a really good book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Great storytelling, everything. Definitely much more enjoyable than I typically get in the Bad Reads book club. Not spicy, but it was actually a really good book, and I would highly recommend you give it a try if you're into fantasy. Excellent storytelling. I was enraptured. I thought it was really funny. The only criticism that I will say is I felt like the end was buttoned up too neatly, where it's just like, oh, you magic, like, he just happens to find a wife that's also immortal and makes him young again, and then they just live together forever, and that's the end of it. So I felt like that was a bit like, bleh. But other than that, the whole book is really fantastic, and I would encourage you to give it a read. Yeah. Thank you for coming to my book club. And now, Stu.